Oh, greetings, Flyers fans. Are you flyered up? I certainly am. Welcome back to the Clear the Ice mid-season check-in, checkpoint, all-star break spectacular here on the Clear the Ice. The Flyers, let's face it, the only Flyer post-game show that's worth a damn here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network with your boy Matty B in the house, along with, wrong thing, along with my assembled colleagues. Sal, what's up, man? How you been?
What's going on? How's it going, man? Ready to talk some hockey?
Ready to talk some hockey indeed. And then welcoming back to I can't welcome you back to a network you never were on, but I guess welcoming you back to the family. Big Mike Lauro. Mike, glad that we could close the deal, get you back. Are you looking forward to kind of taking it home in the second half for us with the Flyers?
Oh, I can't wait, man. Unfortunately, as you can see, I'm still glowing in my work shirt here. So I've been steady working like crazy hours while I was away doing the job for the state of Pennsylvania. But I look forward now with a little bit of more freer time to get in there and start dissecting some of these Flyers games.
Mike's radioactive.
Yes, Mike is radioactive, and you know what? You got to give Mike a lot of credit, man. He will not let something as trivial as work get in the way of his reporting on the Flyers. So that's why Mike is back that's why Mike's here on the It's Wrap Sports Network, as we're slowly but surely reassembling the team that once was over there at the old what was that network called that we used to all be part of? It was at EOP. There you go. Edge of Philly Sports. Let's of course, this is why we're here. We're here to kind of take a pause as the Flyers and the rest of the NHL are involved in the Four Nations tournament, this year's version of the All-Star break, because there was no All-Star game this year because the NHL decided last season to throw their ring or their hat back in the international hockey ring. Jesus Christ, can't get that thing out. Next year, the NHL will return to the Olympics. So as a little appetizer this year, they decided to throw together this Four Nations international, not internationally sponsored, but an international hockey NHL thing. And it has definitely not been a disappointment. I'm going to go to Sal with this thing. Sal, as we've been watching this Four Nations, by the way, Team USA will battle Hockey Canada on Thursday at the TD Garden in Boston for the championship of the Four Nations. Sal, what's your take been on this thing? Definitely, is it putting all other All-Star games to shame?
I mean, just look at the way the Saturday's game went down between U.S. and Canada. I mean, you had 3 fights in 9 seconds there. I mean, usually don't have any of that in the All-Star game. There's no checking. There's no physical play. Saturday's game gave you some old school hockey there, and that was really fun to watch. The U.S. in Montreal, Canada, getting booed when their national anthem played, and it was just fun right out the gate. Just seeing the gloves drop, the guys fighting. The Kachuk brothers are awesome. Austin Matthews is awesome. It's exciting, man. I'm hyped for Thursday's game, man. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, the Kachuk brothers channeling their inner Hanson brothers as they were definitely in rare form on Thursday night or Saturday night, making Dad feel pretty proud of his boys, I'm sure, as they were out there representing the United States. Mike, Travis Konechny, who was a representative for Team Canada, left early on in the tournament with a lower body injury. Now, there's nothing really been kind of reported on this injury, and it might be precautionary because this is, as it is an all-star game, and these players have teams to play for. With Sal's physicality and with all that he's talking about and how cool it's been, what would be your take on this thing as, say, a general manager of a hockey team that's watching? Connor McDavid got his bell rung Saturday night. Somebody rolled him up on the boards and flipped him over. I mean, I guarantee the Edmonton Oilers general manager was like biting off his fingers watching that. How are you on this thing with the physicality, Mike?
It's kind of a shock, really, because like Sal said, you see these All-Star games, they're just glorified exhibitions, and to see how Team USA came out the other night, it kind of worries me a little bit going into tomorrow night's game because I don't know if you noticed, last night Charlie McAvoy the All-Star defenseman from the Boston Bruins, he got a lower body injury now. So now he's out. So, I mean, if you're a GM and you got some players in this, like you said, McDavid got his bell rung. I mean, God forbid if something were to happen to like Austin Matthews, it would really, it can really kind of change the landscape going forward in these division battles coming back after the All-Star break. But again, this isn't ballet, this is hockey. And these guys have been doing this all their life. So I'm pretty sure even though McAvoy's got a lower body injury, Konechny, we haven't heard nothing about. It wouldn't surprise me if the GMs kind of stepped in there and said, whoa, boys, these guys are going a little too hard. Kind of, we're going to put you on ice. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised to see that. But this four tournament has been just really, really intense from the time it started up until I watched last night's game and between Finland and the United States, and it was just, whew. It's like it's been a good tournament, man.
I keep hearing Apollo Creed's trainer going, "This is supposed to be an exhibition." That's what I'm hearing when you're watching these games. I'm like, damn, man, they're really going all out, and it's fun to see, man. Screw the All-Star game, but I want this. And after the Olympics, I think what they're doing in between the Olympics. In the Olympic years, they're going to have a World Cup of hockey, right? Isn't that the plan?
Yeah. So what their plan is in 2028, the World Cup of Hockey is going to come back every 4 years, and that'll be played in August before the season. As they'll get, it's a kind of like a wet your whistle type of thing to get things going. I like it. I agree with you guys. I think it's great, but I'm sure there's a backdoor deal with these teams and all the GMs of the NHL. If he gets a friggin' paper cut, he's coming out of the game and he's done. He's done for the tournament.
Yeah.
There's got to be some sort of backdoor deal because you do have some teams that have a playoff race to kind of resume here on Thursday or Saturday when the season begins. And that is, of course, why we're here, because with the pause in the action, it's time to reflect back and look ahead as well on our Philadelphia Flyers. Officially into year 2, I guess, would you say? Yeah, year 2 of the rebuild. I like to think it's year 3. I think that last year of Chuck Fletcher, when we all knew it was bad, it was sort of the beginning of the rebuild, but we'll go with the official year 2 of the rebuild. At this point now, the Flyers find themselves at the break. It's well over the midway point, but the Flyers 24, 26, and 7 for 55 points through 57 games. Not necessarily, I think, where a lot of people thought the team would be at this stage this season based on the results of last year. And I want to go to Mike first on this one. Mike, there's probably, I have about 10 reasons why I think the team's right where they are right now, but could you give me your number one reason why in some aspects this team has regressed a little bit this year?
Yeah, they're not blocking as many shots as they were a year ago. Defense is not getting in the way of the puck. They're leaving Eriksson or Fedotov, they're leaving them out on the island. And they're constantly, having to, trying to, they're not getting rid of the rebounds. The defense, to me, I feel like it's taken a step back from the Flyers as they were playing a year ago. Again, too, I mean, offensively, it's kind of like almost the same kind of output. Like, I haven't seen anybody's game step up this year, maybe with the exception of Noah Cates. To me, Noah Cates has really, really come on strong. I'm a huge Tyson Forrester guy, and to me, I feel like he's having a down year this year. And to me, some of these other players that they have are not lighting the lamp as they once did, a.k.a. Owen Tippett. He started out pretty hot, but he's been cooled off, for a while now. Same thing with Konechny. Guys like Lawton will get hot for a game, disappear for 4. So it's really been really inconsistent offense, and their defense is not as good as it was a year ago. I believe they're missing Sean Walker a great deal from a year ago, and it's a guy that they probably could have brought back.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of build off your block shot thing, 18.6 shot blocks a game last season, 16.5 right now through 57 games, definitely down from a year. I want to go to Sal here. You brought up some decent points, Mike, and I want to jump on one. You mentioned the play of Noah Cates, Mike. You mentioned the play of Tyson Forster. I'm going to toss Bobby Brink into that mix because as of recently, and I mean over the last month, that line, the Brink Cates Forster line, has definitely been the more entertaining of the lines. They've started to turn a corner collectively, and I think it's as we are rebuilding this team, you got to start assembling this team at some point, and I think we might have found the third line of this future hockey team. How impressed or not impressed have you been with the play of the Brink, Forster, and Cates line? So
I've been real impressed. I mean, they're playing above and beyond what they're supposed to be doing. The unfortunate part is, like you say, they're third line players, and Noah Cates isn't a 1C, but right now he is the 1C on this team.
yeah,
The Flyers desperately need to get a number one center somehow, some way. That's one of the reasons why their record is worse than it was last year. They just don't have the players. They need a number one defenseman as well. And it remains to be seen if there's a number one goalie on this team. One of the reasons why they are where they are record-wise, Flyers are 27th in the NHL with a 3.32 goals against average, and they're worst in the NHL with a save percentage of .885. So that's not going to do the job. If you want to tank and you want to do it unintentionally, the way to do it is to have crappy goaltending, and you're not going to win that many games. And you could tank and still be above board in how you're going about losing games, not intentionally. Which I don't. They always talk about intentionally tanking. I've never seen a hockey team intentionally tank. So
that's pretty hard to intentionally tank in hockey. I mean, you put out players that might not be quite up to the snuff, but they're not out there not playing hard. They're just not that good.
Yeah.
Barbara checking in. Oh my God, I see you, Maddie. Well, hey, Barbara, I see you too. Barbara, yeah, I had to switch the final word down to 7 tonight in order to jump on here. It's all that's advertised. Barbara, you got to look around social media, man. And she also says, and Sal. No love for Mike on this one, Barbara. Come on, Mike's down there too. You got to welcome Mike back into the fray here. So she says, I don't know. This seemed like a forced fake Olympics. Barbara, I had the same feeling heading in, but it's after watching all this stuff, I've definitely changed my tune on it. I think it's awesome. I think what they've done might put the other leagues on notice when it comes to an all-star break or an all-star game. The NBA all-star game is unwatchable. The NFL all-star game is unwatchable. The only thing that keeps me in is the MLB all-star game. That's still fun. But the fact that they don't wear their team's uniforms anymore and they wear these Nike-sponsored uniforms, we're starting to lose attention to that as well. They got to go back to wearing their actual team uniforms in these all-star games. But I agree with what you're saying there. So I'm going to give you my reason why I think the Flyers are definitely in a badder way this year than they are last year. And to me, it's simply put, play off the puck. This team who last season lived with the outlet passes, the passes banked off the board, the no-look, quick decision passes to spring a 2-on-1, to spring a 3-on-1, to open up the neutral ice a little bit. They have been severely deficient in that game all season long. So far through 57 games, gentlemen, the Flyers have given the puck away 851 times. Now, a giveaway is not a turnover. A giveaway in the NHL is giving the puck up due to an unforced error, either a bad pass, over skate, just something that you've done without being kind of harassed by the defense. That averaged to about 15 times a game the Flyers are giving the puck away. In stark contrast, last season, the Flyers gave the puck away 456 times the entire year, average of 5.5 times a game. So that thing is completely out of control. And that to me has also led to the fact that last year on their, how many shorthanded goals did we get last year? We scored 16 shorthanded goals last season, an NHL record. This year, we've only gotten 3 shorthanded goals. All that stuff kind of runs hand in hand. And that, to me, is the biggest problem I see with the Flyers is their play off of the puck. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Matty. That outlet pass that was there a year ago on the penalty kill is not there this year. It's really not. And again, you're also looking at I don't feel like, that maybe some of their defensemen too are not jumping up uh, in the play as well as they did a year ago. Sometimes they would do an outlet pass and there would be a Sanheim trailing or a Cam York trailing, and for whatever reason, they're just not trailing up as fast. Or when they do get it out of the zone, it's going right back to the opposite team. So it's like those lanes are not there for them anymore going forward. Now, hopefully, they can work on that and get it going. But to me, they gave up, like you just said, they gave up the puck now uh, almost double than what they did the whole year ago, and that's only a half a season.
Yep.
So if they got to start cutting back on these mistakes, I think if they cut back, I think the Flyers can make a little bit of a run here and maybe get in as an eighth seed. But to be honest with you, that's probably the ceiling for them in this year would be an eighth seed. Like I can't see them moving up any more with the competition that's in the Eastern Conference.
Right, and we're going to definitely get into the ramifications of potentially making the playoffs or not making the playoffs a little bit later. Barbara says she didn't know about the TK injury. Yeah, it happened in like their second game of the tournament. He's been gone, hasn't played a lick since, Barbara, which obviously they're not going to play him. She's still upset over not making the playoffs last year. We definitely should have made it. Yeah, that was that was kind of a gut punch. 6th seed all year long, and then they go into the trade deadline and they are sellers, not buyers, and then they fall out of contention, along with some injuries to defense as well. Sal, let's continue talking this thing because some great things are being discussed, and I want to get your take on the defense. We talked about this a little bit off camera. The Flyers dealt Sean Walker last year during the trade line, who apparently was the glue that was holding this whole thing together defensively for this team. I like to call it the Matt Niskanen effect. Apparently, Sean Walker, Matt Niskanen have some magical spell over the entire D-core that when they're not here, things go to crap. But am I supposed to believe that the absence of Sean Walker has caused this defensive unit as a whole to regress? Igor Zamula, why he's still playing for the Flyers is beyond me. Cam York, who I'm extremely high on, definitely has taken a step backwards, especially defensively. Jamie Drysdale stuck in neutral. Travis Sanheim, the only reason why I know he's on the ice is because I just see that big number 6 because he's always behind the play and out of position. And then we can kind of continue going down the line, but those are sort of the main culprits. What is going on with the Flyers defense? Are they just collectively not good, or was Sean Walker that good? What's going on here?
Sean Walker might have been that good, but again, like I mentioned, we don't have a number one defenseman on this team. If we had that, everybody moves down a rung, and that might make the team a little bit better defensively. But right now, you don't have a number one defenseman. You could probably argue that Rasmus Ristolainen's our number one defenseman, and he's on the block to get traded. So our defense is only going to get worse once they move him. Travis Sanheim was playing great, and like you say, he had his moments, and now looks like he's not playing so good anymore. Representing Team Canada in the Four Nations tournament. Along with Travis Konechny there, but
Sanheim's only playing because of injury. By the way,
he's only playing because of injury.
He's the only one up there playing because of injury.
So they're going to trade Risto. I'm pretty sure that's a given. As long as Risto doesn't get hurt in this, I don't think they don't have any more games, right? Finland. I don't know if they're playing anymore. If they have,
they're done.
They're done. All right, so it's over. So, Risto was out of it anyway. My bad. He wasn't even. He was rolled out for the entire thing because he had a little.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's on the IR. Yeah,
he did not play. So hopefully they can get something for him. But again, like GMs that are looking to make trades, if there are guys playing in these tournaments, they're going to look and be like, if somebody gets hurt, they might be like, I want to hang up the phone now because I'm not trading for that injured guy. Or holy crap, my player that I wanted to trade just got banged up, and that just decreased his value. So I'm going veering left here, but let me get back on track. The defense stinks. What I notice a lot during these games, they're spending so much time in their own zone. They're not spending a lot of time in their offensive zone. It's always that they're backpedaling. They're in the defensive zone. The other reason why they stink, their power play stinks, and this is going on 4 years now. Somebody tell me, how does Rocky Thompson still have a job with the Flyers? Does he have revealing evidence on somebody? Because why is he still leading this power play? It is dreadful. It is terrible. It is 15.8%, which is bad for 28th in the NHL. I'm not going to say good because it's not good. It's terrible. And their penalty kill is 78.5%. It was a lot better last year. It's 18th in the NHL. Like you mentioned, Matty B, with the shorthanded goals last year, they're not doing a lick of that. And their penalty kill just seems a lot worse. So there's a lot going wrong with this team than there is going right.
So I want to jump in, and I want to, because first of all, I am not a advocate of Rocky Thompson, and I sure as hell want the power play to be a lot better. But I gotta look at this thing through baby steps. Last season, the Flyers were 12.2% effective on the power play, 12.2. So I'll take 15.8 at this point. And the bottom line with Rocky Thompson, and I know he's going to take the venom for this, but if you don't have good players, if we don't have bona fide scorers, if there's no Eric Lindros or John LeClair or Connor McDavid or Draisaitl out there on the ice, or Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, you don't have those guys, your power play is not going to be effective. It's just not. You need talent. That's what power plays were invented for, was to, showcase your talented players, and the Flyers just don't have that. Now, Mitchkov, up until recently, that's all he ever scored was on the power play or shorthanded. So he was actually starting to show that. But I got to give Rocky Thompson a break on this year. He's improved the power play. They're up almost 3 percentage points higher. There was times last year, Sal, where they were down in 9.8 land, 8.9. I mean, it was bad. And I'll take 15.8. I'm not saying it's great, and I'm not saying that's
still terrible, but yeah,
it's still terrible. Now, you mentioned the shorthanded. That has befuddled me more than anything else, is the fact that there are about I think they're at 74% right now, or what, 77% right now?
78.5.
78.5, and that's down from 83.4 last year. That's terrible, and that's a special team issue, and that's defense. That's people knowing your roles, and that could be also Mitchkov. There could be a lot of reasons. I don't know the reasons for the penalty kill problems. That's more concerning to me than the power play, because I kind of have a finger on why the power play is struggling. So I'm not going to go and kill them right now about Rocky Thompson in the power play.
All right, fair enough. fair enough.
I just can't do it. But Mike, let's pivot down to you, and let's talk about the other spotlighted position on this hockey team, a position that we haven't had right since about 1985, and that is your goaltending issue. Because once again, the Flyers, just like clockwork, have goaltending concerns. This time, though, not really their fault. Your guy gets caught up in some sort of nonsense in Canada, gets arrested, and then he never can be allowed back in the United States again. That's not the Flyers' fault, but Sam Ersson, Ivan Fedotov, Alexei Kovaslov, are they, or is there anybody in that group of three? Sal said it earlier, we really don't have a true number one, but is there anybody in that group of three that could develop into a one at all?
Yeah, I think Eriksson can. I mean, to me, it's been more of a defense in front of him letting him down. I mean, we haven't really seen too many stinkers from Ersson this year. I think he's had maybe one, maybe two. Like, other than that, like, I don't have no faith in the two Russians. If I do, probably Kozlov. I probably have more faith in him over Fedotov. Fedotov just looks like he's like, I don't know, like he looks like every time I watch him.
He's a statue.
Yeah, it looks like he's a goaltender, but every time I see him, it looks like he's putting on a pair of skates for the first time.
Yeah. No, that's 6 point. If you're 6 foot, if you're 6'8", you shouldn't be playing goalie. I'm sorry, that doesn't help you because you can't move. You can't move laterally fast.
Think the wingspan, like you would think that would be more helpful than a hindrance, but apparently it is. Like,
but they get him right in the five. It's the 5 hole. He leaves that 5 hole open up all the time, and they're scoring right between his legs. Yeah, I agree. Sam Ersson is, in my opinion, the best thing we have to a number one goalie. The problem with Ersson is he just can't stay healthy. And, he was healthy all last year, but prior to last season, he did have some injury issues. They've kind of resurfaced again this year. He's been sort of in and out. But when he is in, he does give the Flyers their best chance at winning. But, Mike, a caveat to the question of goalie, is Sam Ersson, if he's healthy, you said he has potential, but is Sam Ersson healthy with a decent defense in front of him? Is he a Stanley Cup winning goaltender?
I don't know. And it's not that I don't want to give the guy a chance, but if you really do look, I mean, look what this guy's had to work with the defenses in front of him. Last year, the guy looked really phenomenal. He had a really good year up until he got hurt last year, and again, he had to be pulled. And when he got hurt last season, when he came back, I don't think he was right because we saw a side of Sam Harrison when you were just like, oh my god, like they were basically going to Fedotov like, look, dude, you just got here, help us out, and I would like to see with him with a decent defense in front of him. I think he could. I mean, he makes all the normal stops, and then I mean, God, what was it about a week ago? This dude had about 4 or 5 chances, man. I'm trying to remember who they were playing. Don't remember offhand who they were playing, but whoever it was they were playing, the team literally had about 6 chances, and he stopped every one of them. So I mean, he can get hot like that. I just believe if he has a better defense in front of him, I think he could take the Flyers to a cup. Now, whether they win it or not, that all depends on the offense.
Yeah, it will depend on the offense. And let's get to the offense. Let's get to Sal. This is yours. The Mad Russian has arrived. There was a lot of hype. There was Christmas in July when the Flyers found out they were going to get Matthew Michkov a year earlier. Comes over here, dazzles in the rookie game, kind of dazzles in the preseason, and then he gets going, kind of gets hot early on in the regular season, and then he hits a wall.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned earlier about his ability to score shorthanded on the power play, but not his ability to score 5-on-5, but that's kind of improved up to this point. Right now, he's got 16 goals, and 8 of them have been scored 5-on-5, and that was greatly helped by the last. I don't know if it was the last game heading into the break of the game before, where he had 2 goals in a single game, both 5-on-5. But the big question, and everybody in Philadelphia, we do this, and we do it, and it sickens me. We pin our hopes and our dreams on a prospect based on hype. We never see this kid play. We don't know what he's about. Is Matthew Michkov, is he the face of this first half of the Flyers super duo that's going to take them back to a Stanley Cup?
Is he the face of the first half?
I was super duo. Is it Michkov and somebody that's going to be the Lindros Leclerc of the future Flyers that's going to drive the train back to stardom?
Yeah, I think so. It's just not going to be this year. Like you mentioned, Michkov hit a wall. He hit the proverbial rookie wall. He's more games than he's played in this season than he's played in all of in Russia in the KHL. The season isn't as long. The rink is bigger in the KHL, I believe. I think I have that right. And you have more room to maneuver. The excuse for you. I'm just saying Michkov's not ready. I think we got a little ahead of ourselves with saying, this is the year. One of the things that I've heard is Michkov's going to go through some serious conditioning in the offseason to get up to speed with all the other NHLers and, to get that conditioning right, to be physically able to play 20 minutes a game. That's ideally what you'd like him to play. I don't think he's there yet. I mean, you see Torts limiting his minutes a bit, but Travis Konecny's been the best surprise this year on this offense. He's been playing really well. He's number 17 in points. At one point, he was at number 10 in points in the NHL, but he's got 61 points in 57 games. So I hope Travis Konecny's okay because that Four Nations tournament, while it's cool to see him play in that, we need him for the long haul. We need him for this season. We need him for the future because he's our top offensive player at the moment.
Yeah, now we got Travis Konechny. I'm going to get into him in a second. And by the way, Sal's little segment there was brought to you by, of course, the good folks over at Big Al's Excuse Emporium. That's right, Big Al's Excuse Emporium, serving the Delaware Valley's Philadelphia sports excuse needs since the summer of 2024. If you can't deal with the reality, Big Al has you covered with Big Al's Excuse Emporium. Go there and tell him Matty B sent you. All right, let's move this on. Here we go. Barbara says, sadly, the Flyers have a team full of average and below average players. No stars, not even close. I hope the draft picks turn out some stars. And we're going to talk draft later on, Barbara, because we do have some potentially positive news when it comes to this year's draft. But I want to get to Travis Konechny. Mike, we'll send it down to you. When we talk Flyers, we talk them right now. We look at them. You see Mitchkov is definitely maybe the future. Will he be the franchise player? Is he going to be that guy? That's still to be determined. Travis Konechny was given a huge contract extension in the summer, 8-year deal. It's essentially going to lock him up as a Flyer for the rest of his life. Mike, I never asked you this, and maybe I did. I don't remember, but I don't think I did. Would Travis Konechny have done more for the Flyers if we traded him instead of locking him into an 8-year contract extension based on the direction of the team at this particular moment in time?
No. I love the fact that they signed him. He was one of our core guys here, and let's be real, like the Flyers kind of missed the boat on 2 other core guys with Hart, going through his troubles that he has to go through, and then Nolan Patrick end up really not panning out. He was definitely one of these core guys, and that's who you want to put Mitchkov with. I think it's going to be okay with them two, and I do think the more seasons Mitchkov gets playing over here and playing this style of hockey, I do believe that, he's going to become that can't miss face of the franchise, maybe even the face of the NHL, like going forward. Like this kid came over with a lot of hype, and I'll tell you what, Connor Bedard went first, and this kid was put right up there with Connor Bedard. So, you got to give him time. He's got to adjust his game. But as far as Konechny, I love it. I think he's going to be a Flyer for life. And I'll tell you what, he took a leadership role this year. If you take a look, anybody who went after Mitchkov, dude, he was right there ready to bang with them. Didn't care who it was. And to me, that's a leader. And
he's not a big guy either. He's got a
no,
big
he's not. He's not a big guy. And he's going after big guys, small guys. Like he didn't care. Like to me, I think it was a great one. You trading Konechny, all you're going to get is maybe what we've been getting, which is maybe somebody who's going to be able to come in and do something. Maybe not. Like right now, what you have in Travis Konechny. So him staying here and signing that long-term deal,
yeah,
I think, and plus it's going to help the Flyers out too in the long run, because if you're looking at it, as it gets towards the back end of that contract, it's going to be less money.
Yeah,
too.
No, I agree.
So
I agree. I just don't think that. Honestly, you mentioned what Konechny would potentially bring back in return. He would bring back draft capital, and he would bring back the most coveted thing, salary cap relief. And that's what the Flyers desperately need. And we're going to get into that here in a second, too. I'm not saying Konechny is not what he is. He's the best offensive player we have on this team, and that's obvious. Yeah. But I don't know if he's going to be the best offensive prospect we have on this team 5 years from now. And we're still paying on that deal. So my point is this, and like I said earlier, I'm all about trying to set this team up and all the teams in the future. Mike, you were a big rallied on the trade Joel Embiid platform 2 years ago when it was not so popular to say. I want the Eagles to trade Saquon Barkley right now and a Herschel Walker move to set the team up for the next 10 years. That's not a popular stance. Joe Giglio was on the trade Carson Wentz train after the 17 season because he didn't think he was going to come back and be that type of quarterback. That wasn't a popular stance. But these things would have probably worked out well and help these teams in the future going forward. And again, I harken back to the homers, and I'm not calling you a homer, Mike. I'm just saying we have a tendency to fall in love with the name on the back versus the name on the front. And right now in the Flyers situation, it's very delicate. And I need all the draft capital and I need all the salary cap I can get.
Well, if you want to get rid of if you're looking for draft capital or just shredding salary, you got 2 guys you can get rid of, as we were talking before we went on here. Get rid of Ristolainen. Like, what has he brought to this team? Nothing. No. Like, he hasn't brought nothing.
Defenseman, which isn't saying much.
And that's not saying much. It's not saying much. Like, the dude's, he always gets hurt. Like, to me, I feel like, if anything, like, he should be giving the Flyers back some money because he stole a lot.
Well,
from the
supposedly
Flyers.
we could get a first-round pick for him, and if we can get that, or even a second-round pick, I would do it in a second.
Chuck Fletcher, boy, man, he set this team back 20 years, man. This guy, Chuck
He
Fletcher, set
did.
this team back 20 years, man.
He
I'm
did,
telling
but I mean, if you get rid of Ristolainen, and I'll tell you what, Scott Lawton too. Scott Lawton's overstayed his welcome too. He should have been traded out of here 2 years ago.
I agree. Barber says up to 20 years ago, the Flyers had the second best record in NHL history. Then it fell apart. Yeah, I mean, second best record. That's great, Barber. We hadn't won a Stanley Cup since 1975. It's all about that to me, and I understand what you're saying, and I get you. We were a perennial playoff team. Now we're not even that, and the Stanley Cup seems that much farther away. I definitely feel you. Steve checking in. Steve, how you doing, man? Is Kuzmenko a lottery ticket? I don't see a lot. Like, are we going to trade to get into the lottery with Kuzmenko? We were talking this before we went on air too. I'm a firm believer he gets flipped here on by March 7th. I don't think he's a Flyer much longer. He is going to get traded at the trade deadline. As far as what they're going to get in return, does that mean the Flyers are going to the lottery? Expand upon this, Steve. I don't understand your question. Do you guys understand what he's asking?
Kuzmenko is only like 2 years removed from a 39-goal season. Now, I'm not
yes,
saying
he is,
that,
but he carries a $5 million AAV. I don't have that type
money.
of Right now, it's too much money. I had Farabee locked in for that, and it's too much money. We can explore other avenues with that. What about you, Mike? How you feel about the newest Flyer, Andrei Kuzmenko?
I think we just got rid of our $5 million player for their $5 million player.
Who's a free agent at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only difference. Like, Farabee wasn't a free agent at the end of the year. My whole thing is I'm mad that they got rid of Morgan Frost in that trade. I'm so mad they got rid of him. That's my guy. But I heard that, man. I was like, are you kidding me? But then again, you're looking at it, it's a salary dump. Flyers got to get out from these bad contracts. Yep. And unfortunately, and you know what? This is why Danny said, and Danny and Keith Jones said that it wasn't going to be a quick turnaround like people thought. They just came a little further in the rebuild process by the way they played a year ago.
I'm not going to handle this one. Somebody else take this comment. I refuse to say these names out loud. So, Sal, do you want to read this comment for me, please?
Flyers should hire Howie to show Keith and Danny how to build a franchise.
What's your take on that, Sal?
Sure. Yes, I think Howie does know how to run a franchise.
No, you said build a franchise. Could Howie rebuild the Flyers?
He knows how to deal with contracts. I would give him that part. I don't know if he knows hockey, but he knows numbers, and that's a big part of it.
Listen, to give Danny B his credit, and I remember when he was officially named the GM. I don't think, and I'm going to use me as an example. I honestly didn't think I was ready for what a rebuild. I thought I knew what a rebuild was, but I didn't. And now, as we're languishing into year 2 of it, I'm starting to understand what a rebuild is. It's not something that happens overnight. It does take time. It takes a lot of patience. We are not a city that's built on patience, especially when it comes to the sports teams. And it's a ballsy move to sit up there and say, we're going to rebuild. And for the city of, and I think 90% of the city of Philadelphia was probably like me, like, yeah, finally you're admitting to it. But we really didn't know what that meant.
Well, they called it retooling, by the way, not rebuild.
No, he said rebuild. Danny said rebuild.
I thought they said
he did say rebuild. Chuck Fletcher said an aggressive retool, which is, I don't know if he was talking about himself or he was talking about what he was doing with the team, but he did call it a rebuild. But Mike, what do you think as we are now kind of going through year 2 of the rebuild, and there's somewhat light at the end of the tunnel? The Flyers are coming out of this summer in somewhat decent shape. 9 or 12 draft picks in this coming draft, potentially 3 first-round picks and 4 second-round picks. The Flyers will have to choose from in the 25 NHL draft. Also, with the moving off of Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, the Flyers have gone from the 22nd most or least cap space available next year to the 14th, and there's still much money that they can unload. We talked about this, and it blew me out when Cal Peterson, folks, for those listening to me right now, I'm going to tell you something that's going to incite you. You're probably going to run down to the, I don't know where they call where the Phantoms play, with pitchforks and torches. Cal Peterson gets paid $5 million a year to languish in the AHL. what are we doing here? But his money comes off the books. Kuzmenko's $5 million comes off the books. A couple other contracts will fall. The Flyers are looking maybe right now in the $40 million range, and that puts them up around top 5. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel, Mike. Does that give you pause? Does that give you does that excite you a little bit that that's happening?
It does, but my only question is, who's going to be here to coach him? Because I don't think it's going to be Tortorella. I think Tortorella is going to be relieved of his duties. I don't know why. I just think that's going to happen. I think once
fired upwards. That's what I've heard. He's
what's
going to
that?
be fired he's going to be fired into a front office role. That's what I heard was going to happen.
Maybe, but they're definitely going to be, they're definitely going to be looking for a better. I'm sorry, no, I'm not going to say a better coach, but they're going to look a coach that's going to go in a different direction than what he has brought them. As far as I think once they make that move, Sal, I think it'll be a lot more enticing for free agents to come to Philly because there's a lot of free agents that don't want to play for Tortorella.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bad thing with him being our coach. Not too many people want to come here. I mean, look, we had Kevin Hayes, and he didn't know Kevin Hayes played for him, and he still couldn't get that guy going.
Yeah. Now, listen, my stance on Tortorella is this. He does have a shelf life. We knew that going into this. He has it everywhere he goes. But I applaud him for what he's done with this team. He's taken these kids and he's pulled every ounce of talent that they have out of them. And they may not like it, and it may be medieval at times to see the way he does it. But to be honest with you, I don't think there could have been any coach that could have gotten the Flyers through this point in time than he could have. The way that he got him through it. You're right. I don't know I think he's back next year for one more year, and then I think they go a different way after that. Steve has an interesting point here. Almost every Flyers fan sits there and talks about our alleged prospects without ever analyzing their team's prospects in comparison. And this is interesting because with all the draft capital, 12 picks in all coming in this year, 3 potential first-round picks, depends on what Edmonton does. They have a conditional. They could defer to next year. They could take their first-round pick this year. If not, the Flyers would have their pick. So they'd have 3 first-round, 4 second-round, 12 in total. This is a very important draft, and it's a heavy draft. It's a talented draft. Horrible for Higgins, Anton Frondel. On my show, we review players just about every night about some of the crop of draft picks coming out this year. Elliot Desnoyers' younger brother Caleb is in this draft, and he's about 1,000% better than his older brother. So there's a lot of offensive-laden players that are going to be coming in this draft. It's going to be a very important draft. I don't think we can afford to go Jetlachenko in 13th overall, which I thought was a reach. Sal, with the potential of a lot of draft picks and with the potential of some money that they could bring into the free agent market, how aggressive do you want to see Danny B starting in June? How aggressive do you want to see him? Do you want to see Danny B make a concerted effort this summer to turn a corner to get to the playoffs next year?
Not so much to turn a corner to make the playoffs, but to continue on this rebuild process and rebuild the right way. They're going to have seven draft picks in the first 2 rounds.
Yep.
If you could package some of them picks to either move up, if there's a way you could do that, because I can't see them. You said they have 12 overall picks. I can't see them having that many picks. Just drafting all those guys. I think they're going to move some to either next year or try and package some together to bring in a better player. I would love if they don't win the lottery for James Higgins. I think he's going to go number 1 overall. But if they don't get him, if they can move up close, you have Matthew Schaefer, hashtag shitty for Schaefer. If we could do that, I would take that. Matthew Schaefer. You mentioned the other guys you mentioned. I mean, I want them to be aggressive in the draft, but not necessarily with the idea of making the playoffs. I think that's eventually going to come when you build the talent around them. I just want them to do a smart thing at the draft. Have a Howie Roseman type of draft there, Matty.
Ah, man. What's that mean? What does that mean? Draft Jalen Reagor and let Justin Jefferson go? Is that what we're going to do? Are we going to draft?
No, we're going to draft Arcega-Whiteside instead of DK Metcalf.
I mean, we're going to let Higgins go, but we're going to take, Monty the Canuck from St. Clair State with the second overall pick, man. I mean, Come on, what are we saying here, man?
But not
No,
Mitchell,
no offense to
Cooper
St. Clair
DeJean,
State.
Jalix Hunt. This past draft was awesome for the Eagles.
Barbara says Nolan Patrick and Cutter Gauthier. Yeah, you're bringing up some of the draft targets of the failures of the past, Barbara. Wow, you're right. Mitch Koff will need to get in better shape to handle 80 games. And that kind of goes in line with what we've been saying, the rookie wall, a European player coming over and getting his first taste. He can play at this level. There's no doubt about it. Can he be, though? Can he be the Draisaitl to somebody's McDavid? Can he be the friggin' the Crosby to Malkin? Can he be that type of guy? I don't know, Sal. Mike, I'm having right now, based on what I see and what I've seen of him, I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. Mike, what do you think?
Man, you know who Mitch Koff's first year reminds me of? And I'm going to throw a name out there, Matty. You may have to go back in your Rolodex in your brain there. But he reminds me of Owen Nolan. Remember when Owen Nolan came? Remember when he first came over? He kind of hit the wall like like Mitch Koff did. And, not too many people believed him. But look at the career that Owen Nolan ended up having. That dude was a beast, man. And, his rookie year is very, very similar to Mitch Koff's. I was doing a little bit of research on him, and I tried to analyze who he had that what his stats were comparable to. And Owen Nolan's name came up, and believe it or not, a young Wendell Clark.
Oh no, so, Wendell Clark was all right, man.
He was, but I'm just saying, look how their careers kind of progressed out. And to me, I feel like he's going to be okay. Yes, did he hit the rookie wall? Yeah, but it was to be expected. And as far as what we were talking about with this free agency and draft picks, Sal, I agree with you. I think the Flyers hate keeping 12 picks. No. They may push some back for next year. They may package some of them up to try to move up in the first round. If you have 3 picks in the first round, man, you could definitely do some damage and get somebody.
The trade deadline. I'm sure some more picks are coming because more players are getting moved before the end of the trade deadline. So,
this is how I think that they're going to move up in the draft. I think they're going to move up in the draft by acquiring more assets. But if I'm Danny Briere, I'm looking first and foremost. I am looking for 2 things on this free agent market. I'm looking for a number 1 centerman, and I'm looking for a number 1 defenseman.
Yeah,
there you go. Let's do that.
That would help things out. Barbara says just circumvent the salary cap like Howie does.
See?
Just start kicking the can down the road, right, Barbara? Is that what we're going to do with the Flyers? I don't know if you could do that in hockey. The problem is Hextall told Homer how long it took to get thrown on his ass. Not that it matters in the end. So, wow, Steve's going back to the Paul Holmgren, Ron Hextall days, but you know what? There's something to it because back in the Provorov draft days, the Flyers had accumulated a ton of assets and completely crapped the bed on those assets. I mean, we didn't draft well at all. We let players that are Hall of Famers walk away. Drafted what's the kid in McKinnon from the Avalanche. We had him right in our hands. We had him, and Hextall took somebody else. I forget who he took. Took some kid who never made it to the NHL and let him go. So you're right, man. It's been bad, man. The drafting has been bad. Cal Peterson is $5 million a year, Barbara. He gets paid sitting in the AHL. $5 million. It was a 2-year contract.
I'll take half.
A 2-year deal, man. God damn it! I'm in the wrong business. Oof,
yeah, me
man.
too.
Back
me too.
Back to the backup.
Terrible, man. I liked Iffy and Hayes. Yeah, they were good coaches. I thought Hayes came up under Viggs in New York and Toronto, and Viggs in New York and not Torts.
He might have played for Vigneault, but he was also there when Torts was there too.
Yeah, they crossed paths in New York. Yeah, they were there together for about a season before. It wasn't the season that he got traded to Columbus or not. Yeah, no, Winnipeg. The season he got traded to Winnipeg at the end of his contract. That was the year him and Torts were together. It had to be. I think that was the year they were together. And then what's Drysdale's value? I don't know. We were talking Drysdale, Steve, and that's been probably, and I want to get we talked defense. We really, Drysdale to me, I don't know what's going on with Drysdale. Just seems to be stuck in neutral. He's got so much potential. He's definitely was brought here to be an offensive defenseman. He's not doing that. He can't play defense worth a lick. The value, Steve, apparently it was Cutter Gauthier, which I don't know who made out on that trade right now. I mean, Cutter's struggling too, but your guess is as good as mine. I would give a 3rd round pick up for him right now. I'd trade him. Are you guys ready to move on for Jamie Drysdale?
Yeah, considering that they're teaching him how to play hockey again, and he's in the NHL, I would say, he's a project, right? We don't know if it's going to work out. So,
yeah,
I'll drive him to the airport. I'll drive him to the airport.
There you go.
Yeah, man, it just doesn't seem to be working.
Listen, you know what? I wasn't a big fan of that trade. And I haven't been. I remember me and Pat were discussing it when we were doing P&M in the AM, and I remember he got, Pat's a Pat. He got excited about the trade. I really wasn't. I felt like they kind of gave away a little bit too much, with getting rid of Cutter. Not knowing the backstory. Now that I know the backstory that the guy didn't want to be here, then I understood the trade more after that. But still, I'm not a big fan. Again, this is somebody. Again, if I'm Danny Briere, like I just reiterated, man, you got to get a frontline center and a frontline number 1 defenseman.
So, go ahead.
No, that's just it, man. They're the only 2 that I feel like Danny's got to go out and get right now. Besides drafting well.
So the Cutter trade to me should have been for an asset. The Anaheim Mighty Ducks are languishing down there at the bottom. I would have wanted a 1st round pick. A 1st round pick 1 year and a 2nd round pick another year. And that's the deal I would have made for Cutter. I don't want any of your cast-offs, except for Zegras. That's the only player I'd want from the Ducks is Zegras. I didn't want any of your other players because if there's a team out there that's drafted worse than the Flyers, it's been the Ducks. And I don't want any of your I would have wanted your future considerations. I would want a 1st round and a 2nd round pick for him. You're right. I agree. I think that was a bad trade. Barbara says every player on the team is expendable. She's correct about that. Which brings me now to what we kind of look back, we kind of dissected. Now let's look ahead with the 28 games or so we have left to go in the season. I'm going to start with Mike on this. What is Mike Lauro's expectation for the Flyers coming down the stretch? And I mean, are you pushing playoffs? I mean, they're only about 6 points out of the final spot in the East. They're technically still alive in this thing. Are you pushing playoffs? Are you wanting to see them be sellers at the deadline, buyers at the deadline? What does Mike Lauro want the Flyers to be when the smoke clears at the end of this season?
I'd like for them to be sellers. Get rid of everything, any person that's going to bring you back assets. And if they so happen to make the playoffs, then it's kind of the next step in this progression. If they don't, they're not really losing anything. Like I said, I feel like their ceiling right now is probably a 7th or 8th seed. And that's being nice. So you're just basically going to be somebody's tune-up before they go into the round robin. And, the Eastern Conference, like I said, you have teams like Toronto and Florida and, the Rangers and Carolina, the Devils. I mean, the Capitals. I mean, the Capitals, there's a team right there, man, that's had a resurgence is the Washington Capitals, man. They are just playing really good hockey. Ovi's 110 years old, playing still good.
Still awesome. Yeah.
Still awesome. So, I mean, to me, just if you can get to the playoffs, you try to make a run for it. But, I mean, I'm getting assets back, Maddie. I do. I want more assets because the more assets you have, the more trades you can make, the more – your draft positioning can change, and you can get better players in here. And this is what the Flyers need. They need to get more complementary to their core guys. Right now, like you said, it's basically Mitchkov, TK, and then you have the Cage, Brink, and Forrester line. That's it.
Yeah.
If you can get rid of Couturier, see you, Cooch. It's been real.
And nobody taking that contract, but yeah.
No, nobody is. Sal, same question, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I don't have playoffs on the mind. Like I said, I have March 6th on my mind. That's the trade deadline for hockey, and I want to see as many assets accumulated by the Flyers as possible. You know, if you can get Risto for a first, do it. If you can get Lawton, I heard Lawton for a first too. It sounds crazy. People are looking for it. Lawton can play center. Lawton can play wing. So
Toronto's been heavy in the Lawton conversation.
that could be he's a valuable piece to a team looking for depth, right? He's not a number one, but
Yeah.
he could provide you depth for sure. He's a solid player. If you can get those picks, let's get him. I want to see what Urson does. I want to see, can he develop into that number one goalie that we're wondering about? Right now I see him as more like a tandem goalie. Maybe a higher end backup, but he might have that in him. Look, he played a good game for Sweden last night against the U.S. Now the U.S. didn't play all their best players, but they still have good players that are over there playing for the four nations. So he stopped 32 of 33 shots in that game for Sweden against the U.S., 2-1 win. So maybe he could build off that. If he could stay healthy, maybe we have something. So I like to see what happens there. And for now, it's, hey, if we make the playoffs, it's a bonus, but I'm not looking for that. I'm being realistic. Let's build assets. Let's plan for next year. Unfortunately, rebuilding isn't always linear. You don't, just because you were good, you had a certain record last year, doesn't mean the next year you should be up. It can go up and down like a stock market. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I just want to see Urson play. I want to see these young guys play better and get value for the veterans.
And Barbara kind of agrees with us. I gave up on playoffs just to accumulate more draft picks for the future. Yeah, I'm going to go along with everybody else. I mean, playoffs are great. But as we just saw a few weeks ago, it's all about winning the hardware. It's all about the big one. It's about the parade. It's about winning a trophy. And the last time the Flyers won a Stanley Cup, I was a couple months. I was about a week. I was 2 years old and a week. That's how young I was. So
you probably remember the game, Matty.
Unfortunately, I do not remember the game. But my point is this. I don't know if I'm going to be around to see them win another one. I don't know who wins one first, the Sixers or the Flyers at this point. I that's probably a conversation for another day. But the design was wrong. The foundation had holes in it. It had rats, it had cockroaches, it had all kinds of problems. The plumbing was messed up. You got to tear it down. You got to rebuild it. And right now, the Flyers are still in the process of tearing down because they've evaluated now all they have, and now they're starting to move assets away, i.e. that's why Frost and Farabee are no longer here. And that's why more players will be being shipped out here over the next couple of weeks. So I agree. I think it's all about accumulating assets, accumulating money for the cap. I cannot say and stress how important I think getting better cap relief is, because it helps us sort of bridge the gap where we have to wait for players to develop. Well, now we can go out and we can sign a free agent that helps out for a few years. So that all kind of works out as well. So I agree with you guys. Steve says 2011 and 2013 first rounders are still in this goddamn team. Well, listen, Steve, Lane Johnson was drafted in 2013 and he's still with the Eagles. So I don't want to hear that nonsense. Now, again, Lane Johnson's going to the Hall of Fame and none of these guys are, but I feel your point. We do need some playoff experience. Won't just happen overnight. And it's not happening this year, Steve. What does playoff experience mean, Steve? Go into the first round and get torched in 4 games? Or does it go in there and make a run and get maybe into the second round and push a team to 6 or 7 games? And the Flyers are not ready for that point yet. They're not. They're a speed bump, as Mike said. They're absolutely a speed bump at this point. Let's go over some Flyer stats, and we're going to wrap this show up. Flyers are 24 for 152 on the power play so far this year for 15.8%. Sorry, Flyers have been shorthanded 144 times, have killed 116 of those for 80.5. Have scored 158 goals for less than 3 a game, 2.7. Have given up 187 goals, a little bit more than 3 a game, 3.2. The Flyers have registered over 1,552 shots for 27.2. They've also given up 1,552 shots for 27.2. Their overtime record 6-4, shootout record 3-3. They have 6 shootout goals, 3 shorthanded goals. We talked about the giveaways. Flyers have blocked 945 shots for a putrid 16.5 a game. And our records as your hosts of the Clear the Ice program so far this year, Sal, in his inaugural season with Clear the Ice, 8-16-2. Mike Lauro is 0-0-0. And I come out on top at this particular moment in time, sporting a robust 16-10-5, gentlemen, as we get ready to push forward to the end of the season. I definitely want to say that, Mike, I am looking more forward to you taking more of an active role. You'll get your baptism. You've done it before, but your baptism by fire this year coming up here very soon. Here's a look at your Clear the Ice schedule for when we resume play on Saturday. Sal will have you Saturday night against the Oilers. Mike's coming back at you on Tuesday against the Penguins, and Sal has you on Thursday also against those pesky Penguins as the Flyers have a home and home. Gentlemen, give me your just so far season wide. What's your overall outlook on the Flyers heading? Is the future bright, Sal?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, look, this team might not be good, but one of the things you do notice and what Tortorella has his team doing is playing hard, and they play for each other. They have each other's back. They really do play, whistle to whistle from the first period all the way to the third period. They really try their ass off. I don't know what it is with the second period being a bugaboo. It just sucks for them. They're jinxed. They have the Maloik in the second period. They can't do anything, but I still enjoy this team, even though they're not good. I like the foundation. I like what they're trying to build. Torts is kind of in that dad coach role. And yeah, he's here for now for these young kids. But when it's time for them to contend, they are going to have somebody else in here. And so far, I think they're doing a good job. Briere and Keith Jones. I mean, they're not sugarcoating. They're not bullshitting. They're saying that, hey, even if we play well this year, we're not going to be buying pieces. We're going to be rebuilding, and they're adamant about the rebuild. So I want them to see it through, and I want to see how it goes. So right now, I'm faith in these guys. I'm saying stock up for the Flyers.
Steve wants to know how you value Tony Dick.
I'm bricked up for Tony Dick, baby. We're bricked up.
He's actually one of the better offensive players when he's here. Mike, same thing. What's your outlook, future for the Flyers? Is it bright? And how excited are you about jumping back in to Clear the Ice here, man?
Man, my overview for the second half, honestly, I just want them to continue this rebuild. Tear it down like you said. We're almost at the foundation. You know what I'm saying? So you get everything out and see what we have, and then just keep progressing. And I want to see some of these younger guys get a shot. And I want to see what that line does with Brink, Noah Cates, and Forrester, man. Because even though, Matty, you may have them as a 3.
They're a 3. They're a solid 3. On a Stanley Cup contending team, they're a 3. Come on.
Yeah, on a Stanley Cup team. But this team's not a Stanley Cup team. So
that's
which
the
means
problem.
It's the number one line we got.
Yeah.
Right. I think they have a chance to really kind of, do some good things here going forward. As far as jumping back in, doing this, it's like riding a bike,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Steve says Mike will not be the same good luck charm he was for the Phils. So what he's trying to say, Steve, Mike was 14-8 doing the Fightins final. 14-8, man. That's like he might as well he never made it out of Clearwater. All right, come on. It was me, Sal, and friggin' Al that did all the heavy lifting for that. Well, let me remind you, Sal was 24-20. I was 31-20. I was 31-23, Steve, when the Fightins final last year. 31 to 8 games over 500, man. Come on, man. What the hell are we talking about here?
There you go.
Thanks for the show, guys. I liked it. I did too, Barbara. Who's doing the Philly shows anyway? All right, so I guess we can reveal that you are looking at your primary Fightins final reporters this season as we get revved up for that, Barbara, and that will be coming at you on March 27th, season opener against the Nationals. We will be coming at you with some sort of Phillies preview show around mid-March to get you ready for that. Al's going to be jumping on from time to time as well, but not, this is pretty much the heavy lifters in 2025 for the Fightins final. So I hope that answers that question for you, right? I mean, all right, Sal, where can we find you? And any parting shots you might have?
Well, you can find me at Sal G Philly, and I'm excited to get this Flyer season going again. Saturday we start back up. And by the way, one last thing. 10.1 million people watched USA versus Canada on Saturday.
I believe
every non-Stanley Cup final game since 2014. And I imagine the Thursday game is going to be even higher than that. So
I'll be watching. Definitely be watching. Mike, where can the people find you? And any parting shots?
They can find me at Mike Lawler Sports on X, which will be getting changed soon. But you can find me there for right now. And my parting shot is I will be booing the Canadian national
Yeah,
anthem.
that's right. That's right. That's right. God damn it.
And listen, I love all my friends up north, but you do it to us, we got to do it back. And what better place, too, right? They're going to be in Boston. Although I will say
here. It should have been here.
Yeah, right.
it should have been. I'll tell you what, real quick, Matty, you brought up about the World Hockey Championship or whatever
that
they're bringing back.
World Cup of Hockey?
Yes. I was at the very first game at the Wells Fargo Center.
That was U.S. Canada.
Yes, it was U.S. Canada, right? And it was 96, and it was the second event. I went to the first two events that were ever held at the whatever it's called now.
State Center.
It was Core States, yeah.
Yes.
The
first one, believe it or not, the first one was a WWF pay-per-view called In Your House.
Yes.
Mind Games.
Remember that?
Mind Games was in Philadelphia. That was the very first one. I went there. And then literally a few days later, my cousin got tickets and said, yo, I got World Cup tickets. And we went down. It was game one. As a matter of fact, Johnny Leclerc got the game-winning goal.
Yeah, so he got the first goal. He got the first goal of the Team USA. And that just went nuts. And then that was also the Keith Kachuk fight. And about 10 seconds into that game, they were duking it out in that game. Listen, for those of you who want to put some context into what happened on Saturday night up in Canada, go ahead and YouTube the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, Game 1, USA, Canada. It'll give you some context of what happened on Saturday night. And then after you watch that game, go ahead and rewatch the game from Saturday night, and it'll brick you up, as Steve will say.
Tribute to that, I guess. Huh? That's pretty cool.
Yes, it was. So I'm going to get back to this. Steve says, how can Al do the show and run the Emporium ad? Because we have to see past our own petty differences here, Steve. The Big Al's Excuse Emporium is a sponsor of this program, a proud sponsor of this program, regardless of who is hosting these shows. By the way, Al started the damn thing, so don't look at me. Don't tell me I started. It was friggin' Al and the Phillies got blown out in London because they missed mommy. That was what Al was floating then when it started all that. So don't be mad at me. The House of Lindros built. All right, gentlemen. And thank you, everybody out there, for supporting us. Please make sure that you're checking back in Saturday night. We'll be back with the Clear the Ice, as we'll take you to the end of the season, and then the Fighting's final right behind that. So things are heating up on the network. And then don't forget programs. Catch me every Sunday through Thursday with the Final Word with Matty B. You can also catch hang on, let me get rid of that. You can also catch Sal every Monday night at 7. With the wraparound, and we're growing every day. We have some news coming, hopefully very soon, of adding some shows. So be on the lookout for that. And I know, Mike, you're going to get something going here later in the summer into next football season. So we're looking forward to all that stuff. So until we talk again, folks, you guys have a good rest of your night and a great tomorrow. We'll see you. And in the immortal words of Mr. Gene Hart, good night and good hockey.